Hello, Dr. McCulloch. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Danika. How are you?
I'm wonderful. So we have a few questions here today. Let's get started. We have about 1 month left in the semester. The semester's rolling and ending quickly. What is the most important advice that you could give to our students?
Well, I'm the Chief Academic Officer at the college, and that means that I supervise all of the faculty and the curriculum. And of course, there'd be variations from course to course, from discipline to discipline. But I would say across the college, it's very important for students to finish up the semester strong. Right now, we're coming up towards finals, and even if it's not just finals, oftentimes there's a paper or some sort of a project at the end of the class. And even though we're more than halfway done with the semester in terms of time, in many cases, more than half the grade is still out there to be determined. So finishing strong is extremely important. If you have any concerns about that or about where you're at in terms of your grade, I would recommend to students that first of all, you talk to your faculty member, to your professor. Almost every professor will be responsive to that. They all should be responsive to that. And even if they don't have time at that exact minute because they've got to go to another class or have something else that they have to do, they'll find time to make a space for you to talk to them. In many cases, that'll be their office hours, which should be posted on the syllabus. But even if it's not in the office hours, generally they'll find some other time to talk to you. I would also want students to know that we have tutoring centers at the college, and they can take advantage of those.
Thank you for the wonderful advice. And also, as far as extra credit, what could you say about asking for extra credit?
I would say that for most faculty members, students asking for extra credit is kind of a pet peeve, because the way to get the grade is usually spelled out in the syllabus. What are the assignments? What are the tests? What are the various weights that are going to be there? And I think what professors want to see is you performing well in the work that's spelled out on the syllabus, not necessarily asking for extra credit, which isn't really designed as part of the course, and in some ways isn't even actually fair to other students as well. Now, some professors will build into the syllabus or the course things that you can do for extra credit. In that case, that's fine, and you should take advantage of that where you can. Earlier on, I kind of went over the tutoring centers very fast, but it might be good if we could talk about those for a minute. In a lot of our courses and classes, I would say most of the most commonly taken classes at CCBC, we have tutoring available at tutoring centers on the 3 main campuses at Essex, Catonsville, and Dundalk. And students can go into those tutoring centers and make an appointment by their discipline, by their course, and in many cases receive tutoring from an experienced student who's taken that course and done well.
You mentioned tutoring, so where exactly could I find, what building on our campus could I find the tutoring center?
Actually, at all 3 campuses, it's located in the Student Services Center here at Essex in the Student Services Center, but the same thing's true at Catonsville and at Dundalk. And if you don't know which building that is, at Essex, that's the same one where registration and advising are. In Catonsville, it's the same building attached to the one where the cafeteria is. And Dundalk, it's the main central building.
Thank you so much. That was great. And also, if my professor is grading me unfairly, what should I do? Like, who should I see or go to?
Okay, well, if you think that your professor's grading you unfairly, and I think most of the time we hope that that doesn't happen. We think our professors are by and large, very professional and very well qualified. But every once in a while, they can, like any other human, they can slip up and make a mistake. So if you think that that's the case, first review your syllabus and make sure that you're not mistaken. But if you continue to think that there's a problem, the first thing that you should do is try to talk to your professor about it. If you're not satisfied with that answer or they won't talk to you about that, then the next place to go is to their supervisor. And in most cases, what that means is either their campus coordinator or their departmental chair. So for example, if you were taking an English class and you'd met with an English professor and weren't satisfied with the answer, you could go to their campus coordinator. If you're still dissatisfied beyond that, you go to the appropriate dean, and then only after that do people come to see me. So typically when a student comes to see me, what I'll say is, did you do X, Y, and Z already? And if you didn't do that, go do that, and then come back and see me. And in really probably 98% of the cases, it's resolved before it gets back to me.
So how did you get your start at teaching and actually being a VP? How did you work your way up to your position that you are today?
Well, after I got my doctorate at the University of Pittsburgh, and of course I did a little bit of teaching while I was getting my doctorate, I taught for 1 year at the community college in Pittsburgh, at the Community College of Allegheny County. I was a history professor there. And after that year, I got hired back at the University of Pittsburgh, and I taught there at the main campus for a number of years. And then after a while, the University of Pittsburgh has 4-year branch campuses, and I went out to one of those branch campuses to be a department chair and to be a faculty member. And eventually I became the academic vice president at that campus. It's a relatively small place, but I became the academic VP there. But that stretched out over a period, what I just condensed into a minute, stretched out over about 25 years. So I was actually a professor, mostly teaching for over 20 years.
Wonderful. So do you have any background, is your family members or anyone that a teacher, or how did you become so passionate about your job?
I'm actually the first person in my family, other than an uncle, to graduate from college. Neither of my parents actually graduated from college. My dad did have an associate's degree from a technical college in Ohio, but he did not graduate from a 4-year school. So I didn't really have that kind of a background, but I was always very interested in history and in the subject matter, and I like the idea of teaching. It's fun to talk about a subject that you're interested in. I liked interacting with the students, so it was always a career that attracted me, and then after I got into it, I really enjoyed it a lot.
What do you feel special about CCBC and the students here and the faculty?
Let me start with the students. We've got an extremely diverse student population in every way. We serve over 65,000 students, so you can find examples of every kind of student that you possibly could imagine. You could find the person that was the most dedicated and was going to succeed no matter what obstacles were put in their way. You can find people that are really a mess and they're not going to succeed no matter what we do. But for most of our students, they're somewhere in the middle. They've got a lot of challenges in front of them, but they're eager to learn and they want to move ahead. What I find really interesting about the faculty at CCBC, and I've been an academic vice president at 3 places, at the University of Pittsburgh at Greensburg, at a community college in New York City, and here, is that I think the faculty here, from person to person, is more dedicated to student success than I've experienced anyplace else. Of course, there were great people everywhere. There were people that cared about students, but I think the typical faculty member here at CCBC really cares a lot about student success and really is very involved in trying to make sure that that happens.
Thank you so much. So if there was anyone that was trying to get a start at CCBC, what advice could you give them?
Well, I would say really put yourself into the project. Don't do it in a half-baked way. Put yourself into it. And what does that mean? Well, it means talking to an academic advisor and really understanding what a major is and why you're here and what courses you should be taking. The pathways are very important, and I hope at another interview soon we can talk about the pathways in more detail. But I would encourage students to really do that. And I think one thing that's very important for our students with the very busy lives that they have is that they try to do time management, work on time management. Draw up a block of the hours in the week, when you have to work, when you're going to study, when you have class time, and try to find a schedule that works for you and that you can stick with. Of course, life gets in the way and things happen, but if you start out with having a schedule that shows that you're going to be studying during this particular time, at least you've got a chance of not filling that in with something else. And there's been a rule of thumb ever since I was an undergraduate student, and that is that for every hour in the classroom, the expectation is that students would put in about 2 hours outside the classroom in study and preparation and homework, etc. So if you try to build that into a time management budget, that can be a very useful way of figuring out how to manage your time.